All right, well, hello. I'm Amanda Baugous. I chair the Business Administration Department, and I also teach in the Management concentration. I'll start off with a pre-apology because there's a good chance that a kid or a dog or something is going to come running through the background or make noise. And I've told them to go away, but it works about as well as it probably works at your house too. So I'm going to try to get through this with as few distractions as possible. We have a slideshow that we have that kind of wraps up the whole business program and the kinds of areas that we offer to study. It's a little dry, so I thought maybe I'd just give you an overview of the program itself and then open it up to your questions. And if I have pictures or slides that are related to the questions that you ask, I'll just pop over to those as you ask them. If there's no questions, then I guess we can go through the dry slideshow. Our major houses two actual majors. There's a business administration major and an international business major. Under both of those majors, you can choose, well, one or two, or some students choose three concentrations within those majors. So you would, and you have to choose at least one. So your choices are management, marketing, finance, international business is a concentration option for business majors, and management information systems. So our department houses a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different faculty from different disciplines, but we are all housed in the same department. And so we always work really closely with one another, the operations people with the finance people with the marketing people, which makes for a nice kind of environment for us all to talk about how the different disciplines interplay with one another in the real world. So that's the options, two majors, and each of those you can choose concentrations under the major. A typical run through the program, all students take statistics, all students take econ, all students take accounting, all students take business communication. I think that's it. Is that right, Jen? Am I missing anything? I think that's it. All of our business students are required to take at least one management course, marketing course, and finance course, because our hope is that our business majors leave with a more well-rounded view of business and how the different functions interact with one another versus focusing in on one and only one silo of the business world. And then once you get through those kind of intro courses, students choose their concentration and delve more deeply into those courses, more advanced courses in their chosen area. And then once you get through your electives, your upper level advanced courses in your area, all the majors come back together. Most of the majors come back together for a senior inquiry or a capstone experience. So we then bring back together the finance people and the management people and the marketing students, and they all work together in most of our capstone experiences. So that is the run of the program. So things that are, I guess, unique to our program, I don't know. We are a large department on campus, but still a fairly small business program compared to, large universities. Our class sizes are typically around 20 students. Occasionally they fluctuate a little higher, often they fluctuate a little lower in our advanced courses. Every business major has a business faculty member who they meet with to make sure they stay on track. So you're always advised by a full-time faculty member. Let's see. What else should I tell you? We have a lot of activities for students to get involved in. We have a business club that is mainly run by the students themselves. They bring in guest speakers every couple of weeks. They go at least on one trip a year. Typically, they at least visit Chicago, where they connect with alumni, usually, of our program, who allow them to visit their organizations, meet people in the organizations, learn more about the organizations. They've gone to lots and lots of different kinds of organizations. They've been to the White Sox organization, they've been to the Bears organization, they go to United Airlines, they've been to LinkedIn. Anywhere we have an alum, we try to tap into them and see if they will host a group of students to come for that trip. And occasionally they will also go elsewhere in addition to Chicago. So in the past, they've gone to Peoria. I'm trying to think of where else. St. Louis was on the list one time. So they try to do lots of activities for students to get out and connect with alums and professionals in different disciplines. We have an annual business plan competition that we're in our third or fourth year this year. So students who are interested in entrepreneurship can compete with a business plan. We bring in entrepreneurs from all over the country. Most of them are alumni of our program, and they listen to business plans. It's kind of like a Shark Tank event. And they get to ask questions, challenge the people who are presenting their business plans, and at the end, they get to disperse. There's a $10,000 award money they can distribute how they want. So sometimes they'll give more to one group and more to another, or other times they'll distribute it a little more evenly. So that's a really fun experience. Dr. Thornblad is our professor who covers entrepreneurship, and he set that program up a couple of years ago. And I think this was our 3rd or 4th year running it. So that's exciting. I don't know what else. Clubwise, what else do we have? Campus-wide, we have experiences that business students are typically really interested in. We have something called the Edge Center, where students can, one, work on business plans, but they also learn all kinds of technological skills, event planning skills. Sometimes they compete in case team competitions with other teams from across the country. So that's been really popular with our students. We have something called the Student Investment Fund, which was endowed by an alum about 5 years ago with a pot of money, and our students, mostly people who are interested in finance, but anybody can join, basically decide how much and where to invest that money. And so they manage a live portfolio with that group. A subset of the SIF group also compete with what's called the, now I think, Certified Financial Association, Finance Association. We are one of the only small schools that have been recognized by CFA. And so the CFA organization funds 6 scholarships every year for Augustana students to take the CFA exam to become a certified financial planner. And we've had really good success with our students passing that exam, which has been nice. So they take it for free and they do really well on it and then graduate with that certification on their name. But also the CFA organization puts on a case competition every year for both undergraduate and graduate students. And this year was our 2nd year competing, and our team got 2nd place. And the only team that beat them was an MBA program. So that was pretty impressive for us when they came back with that kind of success. It also made them very excited. And so now they're recruiting members for next year's team. I'm going to flip down because I had a list of things that are activities in the program. Oh, sorry, this. I'm trying to think of where it was. Sorry. Oh yeah, the core program you may or may not have heard of. We often connect our students there. It's career services, planning, development. They are also really helpful in helping students line up internships. They have lots of resources that students can use. I talked about the Edge Center. I think that's all of them. So popular topics for prospective students in the past have been about internships. The vast majority of our internship. It's not hard to convince business students that they need to look for an internship, and often they graduate with more than one. CORE has been really helpful in placing students. Our faculty are really helpful in placing students. Most of us are connected with people in our fields in the community and in the region, and sometimes globally, and so, or nationally, and so they are often good resources too. If you have a particular place you'd like to work, or a particular area of the country you'd like to work, there's typically somebody who can put you in touch with someone to help land something in the area that you're interested in. Lots of students do their internships here in the Quad Cities, which allows them to take courses at the same time. A huge number of our students do internships in Chicago. And then we also have active programs on campus that are really popular with business students in Australia, in London, in New York, in Denver, in Washington, DC, and in Texas. Did I miss any, Jen? Do you know internship programs? Okay. So almost all of our students, I really can't think of a student in the past few years who didn't have at least one internship before they graduated. That's at least been one of my advisees. Because we have a small department compared to bigger schools, it does mean that our classes tend to be more active. We do have typical lecture classes sometimes, but it also offers the ability to do more active, immersive kinds of learning. And so I do have a few photos of kids in class. I didn't even think to look if you were in any of these, Jen, but you might pop up. So you can kind of see what students are doing when they're in classrooms. Like I said, sometimes you will run into classrooms that are more lecture, especially when they're teaching new content. But often you'll find students in class doing a lot of group work, presentation work, In one of the classes that I teach, they do a lot of negotiation skill development, sometimes with each other and sometimes with alums who will come into the classroom and play the role of somebody that they need to negotiate with. And it also, because we have smaller class sizes, makes it easier for us to do things like go on field trips in the middle of a term. So, you know, because we only have 20 students, it's not as hard to convince an employer to let us come into the building and learn more about their organization as it would be if we had a ginormous class and couldn't fit. So in this slide, you see on the vertical picture, that is a group of students going through a wine production factory. And on the right, we were at a hospital learning about how those hospitals are streamlining their processes and becoming more lean. That was here in Genesis in the Quad Cities. And then on the bottom, there is a visit to United Airways that was on the Chicago trip. So those are some fun opportunities that we get to capitalize on. We also use in a lot of our classrooms, we'll connect with local organizations to create projects for students to work on. Right now, I'm teaching a human resources class, and so my students are developing a selection process for a local employer. Every time I teach human resources, the same employer gives me new data for a new job that they're having trouble filling, and the students get to dig into that data and build and present a possible selection process. So I also know in the marketing classes, they often will do advertising campaigns for local organizations, a good chance for students to kind of get their feet wet in a real environment, but in a more kind of structured environment than throwing you out there to do it on your own. Let's see. Any questions so far?
So we had a couple come through in the chat.
Because I can't see the chat. So
okay. So was wondering what topics are covered under the finance umbrella, and asked if we could talk more about the capstone. And then once you finish that, I'll ask the next question that came up.
Okay. And I also can't see my. Okay, so finance as a concentration, I think is what you're talking about. So not my area, but I can tell you what courses are involved. I'm not a finance person. A lot of our students are interested in either banking or becoming financial advisors. That seems to be two of the more popular areas for finance. And real estate investors is another one. We got a lot of students who want to go into real estate when they graduate. So we do have a class, there's one class on corporate finance. There's also, we have a banking and money and banking class. We have an international finance course. Some students will take our portfolio management course. There is a options and derivatives course. There's a financial ethics course that's now offered. Financial institutions is a course that's covered. And so really students will work with their advisor to figure out, you know, given what they are interested in doing, ultimately, they can work with their advisor to figure out what combination of classes would work the best for them, and then kind of follow that track. So, you know, depending on where they want to go, if they want to be a financial advisor versus a stockbroker versus a banker, there are kind of different tracks through the program that you can opt for with the help of your advisor. The capstone. So the capstone, we have a menu of options for students to choose. And often they'll choose based on what sounds most interesting to them. So Jen mentioned her project. A small number of business students, everybody has the option to do this, but a small number of business students actually take advantage of it, is to do an independent research project. So something in the business world that you're really interested in. We've had projects on behavioral finance. We've had projects on, there was a student recently who did one trying to help figure out whether or not it made sense for them to do online, online services on Sundays. And actually she decided to help them put that into place just in the last 2 years. And I bet they're very thankful now that they have that in place. And so you can really choose whatever topic you want. And based on the topic of interest, we find a faculty member who's most aligned, and then they kind of mentor you through the research process. And often those projects they'll at least result in a presentation on in our campus event, which is called Celebration of Learning, where students' research projects are presented publicly. But often they'll also result in a professional conference presentation where the student will travel somewhere to a conference and present their work. And occasionally it has resulted in a publication in a journal. So particularly for students who are interested in grad school someday, this is a really, really good option. Or if you have a real passion for a particular area of business, it's a good option as well. The more common SI capstone options are more course-based, so they're less kind of independent at your own pace. They're more structured into a course. We have an international strategy capstone experience, and then we have a strategic management capstone. Both of them are focused on strategy, learning how all the different fundamentals of business come together to help businesses come up with viable strategies. It's a lot of case studies where students look at both good and bad examples of what businesses have done and kind of try to pick apart why it went well or why it didn't go well. So those are usually very case-based. And then the other option is the one that I teach, which is a simulation experience. We do it during J term, and students are divvied up into groups. They're together for the whole term, and they compete on a virtual platform. They run their own businesses against each other. And it's a good experience for them. The most fun part of it is that about halfway through, they all run out of money. And so in order to continue competing, they have to get investments from outsiders. And our outsiders are alumni that we invite back to campus who play the role of investors, and the students have to persuade them and negotiate investments in their companies. And the better investment, the better position they are in to win the competition, the marketplace competition. So that's a fun one that we do in J term. I think that's all of them. Yeah. But the thing they have in common is they all force students to kind of bring together everything that they've learned so far and think about how it interacts and how it connects with the different disciplines, how they connect to one another. So it's a good chance for them to kind of bring everything home and pull it all together before they leave. And I do have a couple of videos if at the end we want to see them. There's one about the J-term simulation class, and then there's one about the business plan competition. They're pretty short, but if you're interested, I can show those.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
Okay.
The second question, or the third question, sorry, wanted to know what are some of the first year classes for the business program?
So there are no required courses in the first year for the business program. There are some recommended courses. So we recommend that students take things like psychology or sociology, kind of understanding how people think and what makes them tick. So whether you're going into management and you're trying to manage people working together, or whether you're going into marketing and trying to understand how to persuade people, both of those are really good courses for students to take in the first year. Occasionally, if there's room, students will take an accounting class or an econ class in their first year, but it's not required in the first year. So there's nothing required in the first year. There are a few of our, what we call first year inquiry classes that are required of all first year students, and they cover a huge range of topics. But a couple of those are more business oriented and they're taught by business faculty. So occasionally we'll pick up business majors in those classes. But really the bulk of the business major starts in the second year and then runs through your fourth year. Oh, can I brag about my students in Italy and Vietnam? Yes. I'm just flying through these pictures, but 2 of these pictures are from international terms that I got to teach on, and super fun for having business oriented courses abroad. So this one was in Vietnam and this one was in Italy. All right, I'm gonna get down to all right, there it is. But while it's lagging, I can now see the chat.
We're here as students, and we're in competition with the other student companies in class to try and gain the bids of the venture capitalists.
And what we're looking for is for them to demonstrate mastery of a number of skills, including integrating different disciplines, finance, marketing, human resources, operations, accounting, to work together as a team, be persuasive.
More money for shooting and advertising than if you just want to keep up with carbon cycle.
I'm very happy that this simulation is something that's available to us. It's not really like any class I thought I'd be able to take here. It taught me a lot about just the business world and everything that goes into it.
Being able to collaborate in a group setting, I decided to go into a group that had better strengths than I did and where my strengths would help with their weaknesses.
The faculty's help is also very important in assisting me, walk me through the process. It prepared me well to be a businessman for my future career or for any career that I will be in.
I'm the CEO and founder of 38th Street Studios. We're an integrated marketing and software development firm. There's only one employee actually on staff who's not an Augie alum, and there were definitely candidates in there. I think that's a huge credit to the Augustana Foundation.
Augustana alumni have always been a powerful advantage for us, and this has offered a really great opportunity for alumni to connect with our students, to see a group project that's so intricate and has so many components to it. It really makes all of them shine in what they're good at.
So it might be something that is presented as just a hypothetical scenario for a class, but a lot of times these students bring really good ideas that with a little bit of tweaking or maybe the right guidance could actually turn into a profitable business. So we're always looking for those types of opportunities within the context of the course.
Yes, thanks so much. Thank you.
All right. Did that work okay? Okay, good. I can see the chat now. Now that there aren't any more questions. What else do you have?
What all international opportunities are available?
So there, when we shifted to semesters, the opportunities for international experiences dramatically increased. So really at this point, students can do an experience abroad, whether it be an internship experience or a study abroad experience anywhere in the world. So that's been really helpful. If a student is interested in going, if a student is interested in going someplace in the world that we haven't traditionally had in a program, they can work with the core representatives and put together a program that works best for them. Structured programs in place. Australia is our most popular program where students they go over the winter term. So they're in Australia where it's nice and warm while we're freezing and cold here in the Midwest. And they are matched with organizations based on their discipline of interest and kind of their area of interest that they want to work in. And they work in Australia for 8 weeks, and they do take one course, I think, while they're there that counts for credit. We asked about international. Structured programs internationally, we're still working on building new ones that are unique to the business program now that we switched to semesters. In the past, we have sent students to Italy. My trip. That was a really fun trip. We did a supply chain course and used the wine supply chain as our example. We've also done trips to Vietnam, to Russia, one of our faculty members is on the Asian Studies faculty, and so she's taken students to Asia. Trying to think of where else. And then for internship programs, there's also some of those abroad. We have the London and the Australia programs, but we also have the core programming people who can help place internships really all over the world. We've had students intern in Botswana, we've had students intern in Sweden, we've had students intern in China, and so it kind of is up to you where you want to go, and there's resources on campus that often can help you make it happen. But I may do, because it's fun too, if I can find it quickly. I can also show you the business plan competition video. That has been a really great thing that a lot of schools our size do not have on campus, or they may have a business plan competition, but there's no actual money that comes with it. And so the nice thing about our program, and it is growing, and we're hoping to make the pot of money larger, is that our hope is that students will take their winnings and actually invest them into their business ideas. And every time we can make that pot of money larger, it makes it easier for students to turn that idea into reality. So I'll show you that real quick. It's not real long either. All right, how about that?
Product that will revolutionize
Yay!
our mobile devices. The
The Rogers Business Plan competition at Augustana College allows students across campus, not just business majors, to create a business idea that solves some problem in the world that they deem is important. And then they eventually will pitch their idea to bankers, investors, entrepreneurs in the local area.
Our main revenue segment will be the monthly subscription fee.
This is important because it brings the real world into the classroom. Students are working on real life business ideas and they're presenting them to real professionals, bankers, investors that could theoretically give them money to start their businesses after they graduate.
84% of the students has encountered mental health issues.
Our team built a business model that I think it is a great way to learn about entrepreneurship. For any startup, you have to start with conducting market research and then moving on to projecting financials and building a business plan and then presenting it to investor or professionals. So by joining this competition, it's a great way for us to know how the real life startup actually operates.
I love working with the students on their business ideas. They come to me weeks or months in advance and start developing the core ideas of this business and then working through that. And I love seeing them present, and they're so excited to present their idea that they've been working really hard on, and hopefully watching them win money and seeing the big smiles on their faces.
This kind of opportunity is what I really love about Augustana, because it's a small school, and this kind of competition actually allows you to talk with professors to get feedbacks from them before presenting. So I think that's one advantage of being in a small school and taking part in this kind of competition. It actually creates a trusting bond between you and professors, as well as you and your peers.
The business plan competition is just a great way for students to show their creativity and apply everything they've learned at Augustana.
All right. That's all the videos I got. Let's see, I do see chats now. So asked about double majors. So you can double major easily with just about any other major. Pretty much anything you want to double major in, it is possible, especially if you know ahead of time what you're interested in. There's a couple of challenging double majors. Students who want to double major in pre-health programs and in business, that is something that takes a lot of planning. It's possible. We've had a number of students, particularly as healthcare has grown, who have wanted to do biology, or now we have the public health and the kinesiology program combinations. So we do have a number of students who are doing that, and if they know early, we can help them plan out in a way to make it. Now, adding something like kinesiology or biology in your third year is a little more difficult to make work. But popular double majors, we have a lot of business psychology, business communications, business engineering. I'm trying to think what are the popular ones. Business, and then there's a Spanish major that's Spanish for professional use, and that is one that often comes in handy for students who want to study Spanish, but it's because they want to use the Spanish, not just because they want to study the culture of Spain, which is also possible if you want to do that major as well. But yeah, by far the most popular tend to be psychology, social communications. And then we do have really close relationships with our accounting and our econ departments. All econ students have to take some business courses. All business students have to take some econ courses. And so those are really easy double majors to pull off because you're already taking courses that count for both. So most econ and accounting majors are also business majors because that is something easy they can add on as they get through their 4 years. So if you're interested in a specific double major, I can kind of let you know what the plan typically looks like. International internships over J term. That's a good question. So we had our very first J term this past January. Other than Australia, I don't know if there were students who went on internships just for J term. It's only 3.5 weeks. So it's a for an internship, I'm sure it would be possible. It's a pretty limited time to be in an organization and have it really be a fully immersive experience. But I suppose it's possible. If there's an employer who would want to make it work, you could do 4 credits of internship in J term. I do know that accounting does an internship program over J term. So I know it's at least feasible to pull off on campus. I just don't know that we had any business students do it this past J term. Let's see. And somebody asked about math classes. So I think the regular high school kind of college-bound track is okay, at least for business. You don't need to have taken calculus before you get here or pre-calculus. We do have our own stats course internally, and it helps if you have at least gotten through like algebra 2 or one of those kinds of fields, but we wouldn't necessarily require any advanced mathematics courses. Now, if you want to go into finance, it's probably helpful to have a little more advanced mathematic background before you get here, but it wouldn't be required for at least for any of our courses. If you want to go into engineering or into computer science, they have some pretty rigid calculus requirements in those programs. And I think I can speak for all of our faculty and a lot of our students that we are really excited to get back in the classroom in the fall. So hopefully we'll see a few of you there.
Yeah, so excited. Thank you guys so much.